So, because it is Thanksgiving break and I have nothing better to do with my life, I have decided to become one of those assholes on the internet that decides to show their opinion to everyone because I have nothing better to do with my life. So, this is a Battlebots tier list. It's going to be like 100% opinion. You guys know this already. And for the most part, I'm going to be basing this off of each bot's performance in past years at Battlebots specifically. I know a lot of these bots have uh, other iterations that compete in competitions outside of the, once yearly BattleBots TV show. But this, for the purposes of what I'm doing right now, it's going to be just the past 5 seasons of the ABC and Discovery show. So I've already labeled the tiers, and I'm not going to be ranking the rookies at all because they're new and they don't have any past matches to draw from. Even teams that are running multiple bots, Blip or Defender, I'm still taking them as rookies. Alright, so I guess I'll describe what the tiers mean. Endgame, obviously they're the favorite, they're the reigning champ, they get their own tier. Deep tournament runs, the red tier is going to be bots that have made it to like top 8, top 4, all the way to the finals. And they're going to be bots that have recorded wins over the top tournament threats, and with a good enough bracket could easily make it all the way to the giant nut. Solid past performance. I spelled that wrong. So they're gonna be bots that have a pretty solid win-loss ratio, but still have quite a few bots that have mostly lost to the top tiers. Mid tier is going to be the ones that are about a little below 50-50 on their win-loss. They don't have many wins against top robots, and they haven't made it far in tournaments. Haven't impressed me so far. Those are going to be bots that either don't make the tournament or get eliminated in the first round of the tournament. Loses a lot. Those are going to be pretty obvious when we get to them. And rookies. All right, so we're going to start out with Big Deal. They haven't impressed me at all with their performance. They beat, I think, Adam 94, but they lost to Gigabyte in a pretty definitive way, getting split open. Lost to Rotator, and losing to 2 horizontal spinners isn't a good look for a lifter that's very clearly designed to be a very sturdy wedge. So not too impressive. Black Dragon, they're top 2, or not top 2, the second to last round of the tournament, losing to Whiplash. They're going to be on the lower end of this tier, just because I think they're not quite as impressive as the other bots in this tier, but they have won the Despacito tournament in the past, so we know that they are a tough team. They're a student-run team, so they're pretty solid. Blacksmith is a mid-tier. Even going in with the new weapon design, I'm not sure how it's going to perform. It's lost to Minotaur twice, lost to Witch Doctor, lost to Bronco, so they don't have those wins against the top robots. I guess the loss to Bronco was in 2016 when Bronco was still winning. Bloodsport, I'm not sure where to throw Bloodsport. It could go either solid past performance or deep turning runs. It was the second seed, but I think I'm going to put it here just because it's lost to Tantrum in the round of 16. They performed well, but they're going to have to do a little bit better if they want to be put in that top tier. They did lose to Lockjaw, which is, I think, the reason why I'm going to put it there. Shrederator, I'm sorry. They won like one match in the past few seasons. They lost to Suitcase Chomp. They beat Axe Backwards. Spoilers, Axe Backwards is also in that tier, but I don't think they're here this year. That's very sad. Yeah. Claw Viper hasn't impressed me so far for a lot of the same reasons as Big Dill. They're a lifter, grabber, grappler, but they haven't had any of those really definitive control wins that you want to see. Cobalt, if I were basing this off of Carbide, they'd probably be in the top tier due to being a Robot Wars champion, but since this is just Battlebots, I'm going to put them in mid-tier. They did lose to Minotaur. They've made it to the tournament before where they lost to Bombshell because it was chopping up their wheels and stuff, but honestly, this design, it hasn't performed incredibly well. They're still a really good robot, and I think that if it's Maxim this year, they could go really far. But I think mid tier. No, actually, I'm going to move it up to the lower end of solid past performance. They have performed well in the past, but I don't think that they're going to be winning the Giant Nut. They probably won't make it to the quarterfinals, in my opinion. Copperhead. They did lose in the first round, but they were also the number 3 seed. I'm going to put them right next to Bloodsport, basically just for all the exact same reasons. Deadlift hasn't really impressed me so far. They don't have a lot of wins. They don't have a lot of televised fights either. I love the team though. They're great. Robo Gym. I love their personality and the design, especially all the dick jokes that come with the bot flexing arm for the grappling bot. But yeah, I don't see this bot going far in the tournament unless they've really changed it up this year. Deep Six. Another bot that I love, but obviously Deep Six is never going to be a massive tournament threat. They beat Nelly the Ellie bot, but not much else. I think they lost to Daisy Cutter. I'm not sure. They were in an untelevised rumble with Daisy Cutter, and I want to say Double Jeopardy, but I'm not sure. Double Jeopardy loses a lot. Really cool pneumatic cannon, but it's never going to be able to do all that much damage. Duck's another mid-tier. They do have some solid performances, but they did lose against Tombstone, which is like the one matchup that Duck is specifically designed to win. So that's why I want to put them in mid-tier and not higher up. In other competitions, they have wins against both Tombstone and Minotaur, but this is just based on their performance in Battlebots, so I'm going to put them in mid-tier. Endgame, reigning champion. No explanation needed. Free shipping. I don't know what to do with this guy. It is the winningest robot in basically the most winning heavyweight robot ever, but its showing in Battlebots isn't that great. It lost to both Bronco and Hydra. They do have a negative win-loss ratio, but I want to put them at the top of this tier. Gary Jin and Original Sin is a really, really strong team, but just based on their past performance, I'm going to put them in this green tier. Not saying that they couldn't win. They definitely could. That's a dark horse waiting to happen. Fusion. Fusion lost in the first round of the tournament last year, but they were given a seed in the upper half. I'm going to stick them in mid-tier. Well, Fusion is technically part of the Waiachi, the lineage that started with Falcon. And Falcon never really did all that well. So, I'm not sure. Because Fusion is a really good robot and they're really improving it, but just based on last year and Falcon, I'm not sure if, I'm not sure where they go, but I think mid-tier would probably be best. A lot of people were putting this in their A tier before their first fight last year, but they didn't perform super well. They were hit with the Waiachi curse again. So, Ghost Raptor, yeah, they don't win a lot. They lost to Hypershock in Bounty Hunters, where the weapon snapped in half on the first hit. They lost to Shatter. They lost to Sao. Not a whole lot of really great wins, and a lot of losses as well. So, Gigabyte's great. They lost in the second round of the tournament and won a bounty. They beat Copperhead, and they beat Son of Waiachi. They lost to Hydra. So I'm going to put them at the top of this tier. Gruff is, again, a mid-tier. They do have a lot of great performances at other competitions outside of Battlebots, but they haven't really got they never got a whole lot moving in Battlebots, and losing in the first round to Bloodsport after Bloodsport's weapon snapped in half, not a great look, especially for a bot that's specifically designed to counter bots like Bloodsport. Jinx. I'm going to put him also in this tier, losing in the first round of the tournament. Hijinx is a really fun robot, but they never got a whole lot going. Their matchups against other bots and like around them on the tier list are pretty great. They beat Chomp. I don't think they're back this year. No, I don't see Chomp. They beat Chomp by kicking out its legs, but they did lose to Claw Viper, I think it was. So maybe if they get that horizontal spinner working. Oh yeah, they also lost to Bloodsport. So they're not quite up there yet. Huge. I'm going to put them on the lower end of solid past performance. They have beat a number of pretty great bots. They beat Bronco, but they did lose to Ice Wave, Son of Waiachi, and Whiplash twice. So that's why I can't really put them in the top tier. Hydra, that's obvious. They were the top seed, and they made it really far in the tournament before losing to the runner-up, Hypershock. I mean, it's also a Waiachi, so Hypershock loses a lot. Well, so the loses a lot tier is going to be mostly for veterans that have been around for a while, and that hasn't impressed me so far is going to be for bots that newer ones that just haven't done a whole lot yet, but they haven't shown a whole lot of promise, like giant nut winning potential. This tier is mostly for bots that consistently underperform. And Hypershock is pretty much the definition of that, consistently underperforming. Ice Wave, oof. Solid past performance. In 2015, it did well. In 2016, it had 0 fights televised, ripped Huge in half, and lost the bounty fight to Scorpios. Yeah, I guess so. Jackpot's also going to be in this tier. I'm not sure where. This is only its second year, but they really have improved, and it's a solid welded hunk of steel. That's a fun design. They did lose in the first round of the tournament, so they were undefeated in the regular season and had some pretty impressive fights to boot. So I think I'm pretty comfortable putting them in here. Kraken's another mid-tier, I'd say. They've beaten Witch Doctor. That's really its biggest victory, though that is with an asterisk since Witch Doctor's weapon shattered in half, and they might not have won that if Witch Doctor was functioning well. But they are a great control bot. They did lose to Rusty. I don't know what that means. Donald Hudson and Lockjaw, solid past performance. They're always one of the bots to beat. They're consistently strong, and they match up well against a lot of high tiers. But they have lost a few times to Shatter, Bite Force, Tombstone. So they're not quite in the top tier, even though Donald Hudson has a lot of nuts on. He's got a lot of nuts. Lucky, lower into mid tier. They're a solid bot, but they just haven't been able to get anything going. I don't think they've ever made it past the first round of the tournament. Medcat is another mid tier. They lost to Tombstone in the first round of the tournament, but their performance before 2020 was never incredibly spectacular. Malice, another mid-tier. I'm putting him right next to Mad Catter just because that was the fight where Malice did the thing and got stuck. Mammoth. I'm also going to put Mammoth in mid-tier just because it did end up beating Copperhead, but I don't think Mammoth could ever win the Giant Nut. Yeah. It did have a pretty impressive winning record last year if you also count the untelevised fight against, I think, Black Widow. Minotaur, that's a pretty obvious choice. Overhaul. The Overhaul has not impressed me very much. They lost to Beta and Cobalt in 2016. They've never made very deep tournament runs, and the fact that it has an anime girl painted on the back loses points in my eyes. P1, I hate to say it, but they're probably also in that hasn't impressed me so far tier. Did they deserve to make the tournament in 2020? That's arguable. There are bots that did make the tournament in this tier. Jinx, for one. Their win against Kronos was kind of shaky. They had drive issues, and they were also having drive issues in their fight with Smee. They're known as the bot that lost to Sidewinder. So they're going to have to really turn it around if they want to have a good run in 2021. They are the only front-facing flipper in the competition, which I like. Stinger, one of my favorite robots, or Sewer Snake, I guess. The other famous front-facing flipper. So you've really got to have some driving skills to really utilize that front-facing flipper. Though it could be argued that Stinger never really did as well as they did in robo games, similar to Original Sin free shipping. Pain Train, also a pretty unimpressive 2020. Their drum fell out when they were fighting Smee, so yeah. Perfect Phoenix, I am not sure where to stick this. They were a low seed in the tournament. They did lose to Big Dill, so I guess that's why I'm going to put them in this relatively unimpressed tier. They're also really light, really underpowered compared to most of the competition, so I don't think that Perfect Phoenix can go that far in Battlebots. I think I'm going to put Rampage in this tier. They did not do much last year. They lost to Fusion. They didn't have a single televised fight in the regular season. When I posted my memorial for every bot that didn't make the tournament, they hadn't even had a televised fight yet. So, gotta do it to them. Sorry. This is a rookie. That's retrograde. Ribbot, solid past performance. Yeah. They lost to Black Dragon. They lost to Sawblaze in the past. And Ribbot's just a very well-rounded, solid robot. And while I don't think they can win the Giant Nut, they definitely shown that they have the potential to make it to top 8. And that's really important. Rotator. They lost to Endgame in the end. And they do have a lot of wins over top robots. So I think I'm gonna yeah, top 8. I think I'm comfortable putting Rotator up there. They had a couple unfortunate losses to Beta, so they a couple questionable judges' decisions. Rotator can win the Giant Nut. I think they can. It's highly unlikely, but I think they can. Rusty's a mid-tier. A genuine mid-tier. Tell that to anyone last year, they think you're crazy. They beat Kraken. They gave Copperhead a run for its money. And it's surprisingly durable. They beat Sporkanock. So that's something. Yeah, Rusty's a mid tier. I'd put him under Duck and Fusion though. Actually, I'd like to move Fusion up a little. Yes. Okay, Sawblaze, deep tournament runs. They've beaten Witch Doctor and lost to Witch Doctor. They've beaten a lot of the robots in these lower tiers. And a lot of their tournaments end against like really powerful top tier teams. So they definitely have what it takes. Shatter also lost to Endgame. I'm gonna put them up there. They've beaten Lockjaw. They did lose to Witch Doctor, but that was a while ago, 2019, I think. They lost to Malice in another questionable judge's decision. I'm not here to pass judgment on who should have won what fight, but they made it way farther into the tournament than Malice. I'll say that much. Scorpios. I'm gonna put them here, but also below these guys. Sawblaze has beaten Rotator, so I'm gonna put him up there. Minotaur. I'm not sure where to put Minotaur given their absence from last year. Yeah, Minotaur goes at the top. They were a runner-up. Yeah, Scorpios. They beat Tombstone. Beating Tombstone just pretty much automatically puts you up here, you know? Slammo. Pretty unimpressive so far. They did make the tournament, but they did lose in the first round to Black Dragon. They lost to Witch Doctor, so again, losing to bots in the top tiers. Battlebots Update predicted that they were going to beat Black Dragon. I disagreed with that. I don't think they can win the Giant Nut, but I think they can. If they do, they definitely probably will make the tournament this year, given the right matchups, given that everything's working correctly. But also, Team Danby's performance in past years of BattleBots has been unimpressive at best. Before, the Slammo robot. Smee, also a fairly unimpressive season. It didn't make the tournament, but it did have a couple fun fights. I liked its fight against P1, but I don't think Smee can win the Giant Nut. Sub-Zero, I think, is going to go on this upper end of mid-tier. Their season was ended by Valkyrie, but did win the Bounty tournament before losing to Witch Doctor. So they're a solid mid-tier. They get better every year. They're excited to see what they bring this year. It's very sad that they couldn't use, what is it? Nitrous oxide, was it? NO2? Because Sub-Zero is named after a cold gas that they used to use their flipper, but that was banned by BattleBots, so now they just use regular carbon dioxide? Shows you how much I know and how much you should trust my opinion. You shouldn't. Tantrum. Okay, so they've beaten Bloodsport. They've beaten Fusion. They've beaten... Who else did they fight last year? I'm trying to think. Wait, Okay, who did Tantrum fight last year? So they do have a 57% overall win-loss ratio and a 71% last year. Gamma 9, Adam 94, eventually losing to Endgame. Okay, so I'm going to put them in solid past performance. Most of their wins early on were not against the top tiers, and their biggest win is against Sawblaze. So, yeah, I think just for that I can put them down there. Yeah. Tombstone. I mean, how can you not put Tombstone here? He's a past champion, and out of the robots in this same tier, win, loss, win, loss, win. Okay. Yeah. Tombstone matches up pretty evenly with a lot of the robots in this area, so I'm gonna put him there. I'm not sure if I should put him. Well, gosh, I'm still not sure where to put Minotaur, given how they weren't even at Battlebots last year. But the ordering isn't too important, though. Just so you know, higher end means to the left. Uppercut. They did well last year before losing to Ribbot. But I still think I can put him in this tier. Yeah, not much to be said about Uppercut. It did well last year. It's delivered some of the biggest hits and put on some of the most entertaining fights, as well as it provided a clickbait video for my YouTube channel. Valkyrie's kind of in the same boat as Gigabyte. They did lose to Whiplash to end their season. So they match up well against a lot of the bots in the mid tier, but they still haven't reached that level where they have won a lot of the major tournament threats. Whiplash, the runner-up, that's a pretty obvious pick. I don't think that needs much explanation. I'm gonna put Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor still gets a top tier placement just because of their past wins. They've beaten Tombstone, they've beaten Whiplash, they've beaten Sawblaze, they've beaten Rotator, Shatter, Scorpios. And even though they lost in the second round of the tournament last year, their performance in the Bounty final, they disintegrated Sub-Zero without breaking a sweat. So anyone with doubts saying Witch Doctor's past their prime, just look at that fight. Sub-Zero's a good bot. Witch Doctor's just better. And given a good bracket, they could definitely win. Given that their weapon doesn't break in half, they could theoretically beat Kraken and Hydra. Yeti. Yeti's also going to go in mid-tier. They did lose to Tombstone, but they did beat Suitcase Chomp. Their performance was never incredibly spectacular, but they're entertaining. They hit hard, and they've got the power of Christian Karlberg now this year. So I don't think they're going to win the Giant Nut, but I do think that they have a good chance of ending somebody's season early. That's everyone. Wow. I guess let's see how this matches up with the preseason voted tier list. Obviously, Endgame, Hydra, Whiplash, Tombstone, Minotaur, Sawblaze, Witch Doctor. I put all of those in this top tier. Uppercut a tier below. Copperhead, Tantrum, Bloodsport, Black Dragon, Rotator, Gigabyte, Yeti. Yeti's a lot higher in this tier list than I did. But I think for the most part, my tier list matches up pretty closely with these. The preseason voted tier list also ranks rookies alongside returning teams, which I didn't do. But yeah, feel free to yell at me in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong.